I've got a call into June George, and we just haven't,
Annual for Manchester.
Right, the intermunicipal agreement.
That's when all the towns go to meet.
so,
And they'll make your decision then as to what you're purchasing.
I think they'd like it. They're not
I can't answer that.
gonna, yeah.
I really can't answer that.
Kathy and I are gonna talk one more time.
Yeah, we just can't, we have no fundamental principle on anything that we're discussing as far as what the town of Goffstown is going to be responsible for. We're changing our percentages, so until we can get a firm principal amount, we can't calculate what our costs are gonna be. So, hopefully we can come up with a percentage, but it's the percentage of what? And the what is the big question.
Well, they've provided us some hard numbers and some numbers, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah, but those hard numbers include project costs for the whole project, but it doesn't show what the Goffstown project costs are gonna be over 30 years. And we need to have that spreadsheet that shows what the Goffstown portion of it is going to be. There are some plants in there or something, treatment facilities that we're not responsible to part of our upgrade, so.
What would be an example of that?
Hold on.
Are you talking about the pump stations and
Yep.
Londonderry's?
Yep, I
And
am.
Londonderry's interceptor that we don't get billed for.
Right. So all they gave us, what I asked for them when we were there, was a business plan that showed us over the 20 years, I think it is. It goes
Yeah.
from 2011 to 2031.
20 years.
They gave us a business plan showing each year what they plan on spending for capital improvements. And it shows what what items they're doing those years under the capital improvement program. So if one of the years, which I think it showed $10 million of this capital improvement program,
213, 214.
213, 214, some of those projects were not our projects, which Jim's talking about, Londonderry. And we asked Fred to give us the spreadsheet showing of those projects, which ones would Goffstown be responsible for under the CIP. The other thing that's very concerning is that their budget came up to 99, their
99.
capital improvement, $76,346, versus $78,200,000, which is in our IMA agreement
The draft.
draft. So the difference is a $20,000 difference. and
$20
we-
million.
$20 million difference. And when we called June, she told Ellen that that was built-in inflation costs. So this, I don't know if you want to see it, but this is by year, up here on the top. You don't want to see all this, because this has our stuff in it.
You got the draft from,
This is what I had last time, but I put in,
It needs to be in there, the very
The
last
top-
page, Jim.
that, here,
yeah, no, I was just the one Fred gave us.
I went to
This-
the very
Right here,
last.
right here.
Okay.
Here's what Fred gave us, that's what we're talking
right. So these are all the numbers up here that Fred gave us as what they plan on spending on an annual basis.
about.
The top line.
In answer to your question, in 2013, 2014, when they're spending 10 million, 214, 215, when they're spending $10 million, well, one of it's the aeration system, we own part of that. And the other one, 10 million, in 2014, they're gonna put 10 million forward into the aeration system, we own that. We own a portion of that. In 2015, they're gonna put $8 million into the aeration system, again, we own that. And then under the primary clarifier, design and construction, $2 million, that's part of, we own that too, so that, you know, everybody participates in that.
Well, I don't see what we don't own. I mean, we own a piece of the West Side Pump Station.
Right.
Which the other two towns don't own.
Right.
But I don't know what the other towns own that Goffstown doesn't own.
Those are the lists of the items on the left-hand side of that report that Jim's showing you, which shows what they're... Do you understand that? Look, see the list?
Well, there's
Right
some
there.
pump stations, there's a Londonderry sewer in there, but it's the same, they're the same items.
Where's the one in there?
It's not in here, that's what I'm saying. Not unless, you know, RAS pump station and pump station improvements, that could be West Side and other pump stations, I don't know. That's my question.
Okay, well, that makes sense, because some of the pump stations are just for them.
Right, and that's my question was, does that include all pump stations?
And what's the total of that come to, about?
99,
That comes to $6 million. $6.5 million. Then there's
I
what's,
don't have
we're just gonna get,
Well, the other thing that's wrong is we're here, he's got the flow at,
that. No, those are mine.
those are hers.
yeah. Well, these numbers aren't good anymore. It's not 60, 20, 20, it's,
40, 30, 30.
40, 30.
well, close to that, but not quite.
No, you're still on that one, huh? We heard you were not happy with it.
Anyway,
Yeah, you work it out.
we are.
We're trying to.
Here you go, Kath.
But again, and I don't know if you realize this when you're looking at it, but their figures that they're going to be basing the percentages basing the percentages that they're gonna charge the town for based upon their business plan for 20 years have built in a 26.8% difference. And the answer to what that 26.8% difference is June told Ellen it was a built-in cost of inflation.
Well, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. If they do a project 10 years from now,
Right.
and the inflation rate's gone up
Right,
20%, just to pick a number, then the project cost is gonna go up 20%.
correct,
And they're just guessing, but
right,
it's gonna be what the price is.
right,
I mean,
That was the
You can see
answer to
why they're
that.
doing it, and
right. I'm building in a 10% per year, but there are other philosophies going on which say, let's do it fundamentally as to what the actual cost is. Then if you have inflation that goes on, you deal with inflation
Right.
as it happens.
Why don't you and I meet next
Right,
Monday?
so, there are other,
but it's like almost irrelevant, because they go out to bid, and whatever the bid price is, you gotta pay your 3.8% share.
right. Gotcha,
So if inflation's 5%, you're gonna pay 5 more. If it's, if it drops to, and
right,
there's probably some contingencies built in there, but, I mean, you can see why they're doing it that way, because otherwise, they said for sure it's 78, and then 15 years from now, it's not 78 because of inflation, then you're gonna say, well, gee whiz, I thought we had a deal for 78. Well, they can't cut a firm deal because they don't know what the price is. Who knows what something's gonna cost in 15 years? I mean, oil could be $8 a gallon, could be $2 a gallon, who knows? All right, well, let's get off that
Let's
first.
get,
Okay, I want to talk about the pavement for a little bit, just so I have an understanding about how this thing sort of came about.
Okay.
Now, and correct me if I misspeak, but I think I sort of got the story straight. When the job started, the Public Works Department in their capital improvement plan was planning on replacing a lot of the drainage on Mass Road.
Correct.
And it was in the plan like 2 or 3 years out or whatever it was. And it was planned like before the moratorium would have ended for digging the road up again,
Right.
okay? So that's when it was decided to go with the trench repair, if you will.
Correct.
Okay? And then as the job progressed, they started digging up the old drainage pipes, and rather than splice in new pieces of pipe, they just ripped the whole thing out, so there'd be a new drainage pipe instead of a little piece of old pipe and a little piece of
Well,
old
they
pipe.
did splice some together. They-
Yeah.
Yeah,
But some of it was replaced. I guess what I'm getting at is, we ended up doing more drainage than we originally thought,
maybe a little bit more.
okay?
There was one, in particular, there was a drain line, I think it was at the intersection with Hannaford's, that was actually a change order item in the prior change order for about, I don't know, $14,000 or something. And there was an additional 50 feet or something that was done there.
Okay, well then, as they say, there came a point in time where the drainage wasn't as critical as it was originally thought, and they took the drainage out of the, or pushed it way out beyond the moratorium. So in other words, instead of replacing that drainage in 2 or 3 years or whatever it was, maybe now it's more like 5 or 7 years. I mean,
Well, that's why the decision had been made to do the trench with pavement repairs, so that there wouldn't be that moratorium in essence. So that
Right.
they actually could go in, the town could just go back in and do the.
right, that's what I'm getting at.
But I think what happened is that, you know, at Public Works, they just decided that there were a lot of other priorities, and funding, of course, is always a question mark. So I think that they decided that it just, the drainage replacement work wasn't that critical.
Well, and I think furthermore, DPW said some of the critical ones that were potentially of issue were addressed through the sewer project.
Some of
So
them-
therefore, came fall, their assessment of the drainage system said, you know, we can actually live with this, is what I understand.
Right.
We now have, we've taken, you know, a lot of the issues have been taken care of. What DPW is saying is, they don't anticipate the need to go now in there and correct lines that were maybe imminent of failure or getting aged because they've already been addressed.
Yeah, I mean, there's still issues there.
There's still issues, but from what I understand from DPW is they can, you know, it's based, they're gonna take, you know, the funding for what they need for drainage. There are other areas in town now that are a higher priority than what's left in there.
Right.
It's not a perfect system, but
Right.
now they, you know, but the issues that were of higher priority are now been addressed.
Yeah, it's something they can live with for 5 years.
Right.
So the sewer project helped push that out a couple years because of the work that our contractor did on the drainage. That's not, it's not 100% that, but that was,
I'm sure that's.
it was a combination of that and some other stuff, but
It
that,
improved the system.
it improved the system for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it did is replace all the crossover culverts.
All of them?
Well, because what happens is the existing drainage system is so old, it's an aluminum pipe, and you can't tie nothing to it, because there's nothing left to tie in. So if you dig a cross trench, on each side of the cross trench, there's nothing left to tie into. So when I did the budget, I put in the budget to replace the whole run, between catch basin across the street. Because by past experience, that there's no structure there or no pipe there to tie onto.
When you say the budget, you mean
So
the
budget,
the sewer budget?
so budget at 2.5 million.
Within the budget for the project.
For the budget, I included
He put
crossing
his
the
estimate
street
together.
for the drainage.
So a lot of the drainage you included before it went out to bid.
It was included in the bid package.
Yep.
Because structurally, there's nothing there to tie to. You had to tie the structure inside. There is no good pipe in the road left on Mass Road.
It went out in the bid package for
That's right.
the sewer project?
Yes,
Absolutely.
there was a bid items in there for that, for
drainage.
drainage replacement.
So why did we do trench?
Do what?
Because that was only every,
That was the cross trenches.
If we were going to repair and knew we were gonna be repairing the drainage crossovers, all of them, which were the major issues, then why didn't you go sidewalk to sidewalk? Because you would know that your drainage issues were taken care of.
Because this is all soil money. DPW didn't have any part of this, soil project. $2.5 million was nothing to do with the DPW.
and that's just the crossovers, Kathy. That doesn't connect the whole length all the way down on both sides.
Okay,
All you
Well,
took
plus-
care of was the middle.
okay.
We only worked on what was above the sewer. We didn't touch anything that was
Right.
below the sewer because we didn't have to.
Right.
There is nothing below, there's nothing below.
Well, there's that one big one by the what toy, isn't that below the
That
sewer?
was below the sewer and state. That's the one that they didn't touch.
Yeah, there's one at Daniel Plummer Road.
And the rest of them, they were concrete, they replaced.
Yeah, and some of the pipes are concrete.
Concrete, so the only ones that got replaced was a crossover trench that, there were corrugated metal pipe. That was unacceptable to tie into. And those are the ones included in the bid package, other than the 2.5 million. The concrete stayed. The concrete pipe, there was no line item for the concrete pipe. So technically, right now, as it stands, all the crossovers on Mass Road have all been replaced.
All the aluminum
all
crossovers have
aluminum.
been changed out.
Corrugated metal, been changed out.
And they didn't realize that with all of them being replaced, that they wouldn't have to go back there for another 5 years?
That's DPW's decision to make.
I think what they did is that, while the construction was going on, they were making, from what I understand, they made an assessment once things are done, and the pipes that are concrete and run down the road, apparently they felt now they're saying are in an acceptable condition. They've gone through and checked them after the construction.
Yeah, there were field changes and change orders as they went along,
We
and
change.
a couple of them got changed, and some of it was probably easier just to put a new pipe in than to splice.
Well, you could splice, that was. the
Yeah,
whole-
well, that too, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the town made out pretty good, you know?
Was the crossover trench replacements a CIP issue on DPW?
They would have been if there was, they probably would have been if it was phased out like originally planned 3 years ago, well, the other money came in. It all came into play.
And what was that, do you know what the CIP amount was 3 years ago?
I have no idea what it would be.
Okay.
The issue we had is the contractor couldn't lay the sewer line, and dig through these and try to cut them and dig by them because there was nothing left to for him to do an effective repair. He would, i.e. he had to go from back to structure to structure.
Yeah, then if you get into a warranty, if he doesn't replace the whole thing, then you get into some kind of warranty issue. Well, was it the old pipe, was it the new pipe, was it the splice, was it this, was it that?
Exactly.
I mean, I agree with what everything happened, but, I just think that, I think it was fair to everybody, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and there's kind of like a little more to the story, Well, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
So the town voted to give us $50,000 towards the paving of the road, correct?
Yes.
Because Dave fought for us.
Up to 50,
Up to 50.
whatever the amount will be over the 250 million, 2,500,000.
Over what, will be funded, basically, DES is willing to pay 25% of the cost for milling and overlay. So,
Yeah.
And there was an email about the plowing and everything else. Is that gonna, are those concerns gonna be addressed
Yes,
before we get into the winter?
yes.
Okay.
They were obviously resistant to doing that and giving us a bunch of grief, saying that because of the town's decision to postpone the final paving till next year, they feel that they are have an undue burden in terms of maintaining the roads, because their feeling is that had they been allowed to do the trench width paving this fall as planned, they wouldn't have had that issue, that problem. So they feel that that they're kind of taking a hit there.
They would have raised the settlement back up, what is settled.
So, and I tried to argue against that by saying, well, settlement of trenches is not, I mean, what I was saying is it's not strictly a pavement maintenance issue, because the settlement in the trenches goes back to the backfilling and compaction. So if there's proper backfilling and compaction, then the amount of settlement should be minimal. I mean, there's no settlement, but it should be fairly minimal if it's done right. In the particular cases that were pointed out by Carl and Megan, they felt that these were kind of excessive. And I can tell you that, their compaction wasn't anywhere near what the specs required it to be. So, our feeling is that they've got at least some responsibility there. In addition to the fact that even if they had done the paving, the trench width paving this fall, we're still within the 1-year warranty period on the project until next September. So if there are deficiencies that arise or that we become aware of, they're still responsible for those during that 1-year warranty period if it's clearly a construction issue. So I don't know that they were necessarily buying that, but what I managed to work out with them, and that was the email I sent around, was we had, on one of the service laterals, well, let me back up. In the latest, or most recent batch of change order requests, there were 2 of those change order items were service laterals to buildings that they were looking for extra money on. And in both cases, there was 2 days' worth of work on each one. And our view was that the additional work they did on the first day, digging around, chasing things out and so forth, that's legitimate for time and materials for an extra change order. The second day, if all they're doing is laying new pipe for the building service, that's covered in the contract already because there's a bid item in there for service laterals. So our feeling was they're really not entitled to the additional costs through time and materials when clearly there's it's work that's already covered with a pay item in the contract. They dispute that, but that's our stance, and that's what we stuck to. On one of those, they kind of screamed and hollered because they said, well, on the second day, a lot of the work was the fact that they had to go dig out a bunch of the existing building service, because when they did the flowable fill in the sewer line that's being abandoned, the flowable fill went up the service line. So they had to dig the line out to put a new line in. So we went along with that argument on that particular one. That was number 600 Mast Road. The other one was number 736 Mast Road. And in that one, that was very clear. The second day, all they did was install new pipe, period. There was nothing extra that we felt that they were entitled to there. So we felt that they strictly should be paid by the bid item. So after writing this lengthy hemming and hawing in an email to me, at the end of it he said, but we'll, in a spirit, I forget how he worded it, spirit of compromise or something, whatever, he said that they would split the difference on that one. And I think that the difference was like $6,000 or $6,600, so we're talking about $3,300. And we weren't going to agree to that, but when he started, screaming about the trench pavement issues, the cross trenches, and doing the maintenance on that, he said, "Okay, we'll split the difference with you. If you do all of the trench repair work that the town's asking for right now, that includes the shimming of trenches as well as any structures that are an issue for the plows. We'll give you the extra $3,300 for number 736 Mass Road, and he agreed to that. So,
So you got to yes.
it's a yes.
That's a yes.
So he's agreed to go out and do the shimming on any settled areas that were specifically pointed out, as well as doing shimming or repaving, whatever he has to do around the structures that are too high and are an issue for the plows.
Sounds like a TV job.
And how many, setting that aside for a minute, how many open change orders, so to speak, do we still have?
There's only one that we're addressing now. I've got a draft of change order 4 on the project that I'll hand out to you. So that's everything to date with the exception of this last one. In this last one, what he's got in there is some items like the frac tanks that were rented for the groundwater that was pumped out of the contamination areas. There's some other costs that were associated with the soil contamination. What we've done on those previously is those were not handled as change order items. Those were paid through the allowance items for the contamination sites. And that's what we're going to do on this one as well. He also has in there the cost of, it's like $5,500 for an updated or new or revised health and safety plan. Now, he submitted a health and safety plan at the beginning of the project, and we kind of pushed the issue of the contamination sites in terms of site safety, because somebody had to be responsible out there, and obviously their superintendent is supposed to be the site safety officer. It's not our job to manage safety on site. It's a construction issue, and the contamination is part of that. And our assumption was that that was covered in the original health and safety plan, and it was to a certain degree. But then they were arguing that because there was we showed 2 sites, 2 contamination areas that were remediated. Those were specifically shown in the drawings and pointed out, so we're aware of those and the potential. What happened was that they actually hit a contamination site outside of those 2 areas. It was a 3rd site and wasn't even known about.
Right.
So. Is that in front of the auto body shop?
Yeah.
Paris's?
Yeah, I think
It
so.
was.
Yeah, Paris, yeah, that's right, that's exactly the one. So he's saying that he had to go back now and change or update his health and safety plan because this is a fresh contamination site that hadn't been remediated yet. Not sure I'm buying that one, but it's $5,500 that's in there. He's also included in that $6,400 or $6,600 for the cost of the 40-hour OSHA health and safety training for his crew.
After he revised his safety plan and had the OSHA training, how much time passed before he sent you a bill for that?
We got the revised change order request on it in October.
And when did he change the plan?
Well, that was back during August, I'd say.
So 2 or 3 months?
Yeah.
60 days.
Anyway.
Wasn't that Paris?
Now, just so you know, we're rejecting the training. Whatever, the $6,600 in training. I mean, our position there is that because of the 2 sites that were shown on the drawings to
He had to
begin
have them
with,
there.
Right.
this was not unanticipated. There's no mystery there, so, and everybody should have had their proper OSHA certifications to begin with. So why should we be paying for that? Plus, it's a benefit for him. I mean, his guys are all OSHA certified under the 40-hour now, as opposed to the 8-hour. And that's clearly a benefit to them. And why should the town cost not pay for that? I mean, that's crazy.
Well, no, I can support that. I mean, there was 2
The
sites
health and safety
identified.
plan, we may throw him that as a bone.
So I've heard $3,300 cost and $6,600 cost. Am I missing something? Yeah. $6,600 for the training.
$55 for the health and safety plan.
3,300.
And then there were some other miscellaneous costs that, as I said, those are gonna be covered under allowance items, like the frac tank that they had, cleaning of the frac tanks, testing of the groundwater. Those were all, bills that he included in the change order request. And we're not gonna cover that as a change order, or handle it as a change order, we're just gonna pay it through the item, the allowance item in the contract. That's where we've done those for previous ones, and we feel that's appropriate for
That's
this.
the
It's really
appropriate
not warranted a change order item.
Has he agreed to any of this, or are we still going back and forth?
We haven't sent that letter to him yet. We have a draft letter ready for that one, we haven't sent that out to him yet.
And the health and safety plan, did they do that themselves, or did they use a third party to
They
do
have
it?
an outside sub that prepared that. So there was an invoice.
And he just wants the invoice plus 10% or whatever?
Yeah, 15.
Was there major changes in the health and safety plan for the third site?
No, not until they encountered that.
No, but when they updated the health and safety to account the,
Major, I don't know if I'd call it major.
Wasn't this Paris site looked at by the state?
Um,
I believe when we were at a meeting.
No, I mean, nobody seemed to be aware it was there when we ran into it. Because it was outside of the other two sites that we were known about.
Were the other two sites near this Paris auto body?
Yeah, not too far away.
Because I thought that when we were at the meeting at DPW, the fellow who's from the state, from
Brian Hilliard.
Brian Hilliard had alluded to that site.
Well, it was probably after we ran into it.
Probably after they encountered the site.
No, that was I thought whatever. I thought they,
Because we ran into that, I think that was back in July.
because I think we questioned him on the follow-up, how frequently did they go back to retest to see if it was still contaminated?
Well, they have monitoring wells out there at the two sites, but, there's no way to know if there's a.
Well, there's no monitoring wells at the third site, because no
No.
one knew it was there.
Right.
And everybody's got city water, so it didn't
Right.
show up in a private well.
Exactly.
I somewhat recollected that we talked to Brian about it before, because it had been in the past a site that had been looked at.
Yeah, I think it may have been after we discovered
It was
it.
after, because I knew the site that was down at Bartlett was known about a long time ago. That
Right.
was treated and taken care of.
Yeah, the site near the school was, and then one further down.
Well, whether we
They did.
realized it, whether we saw it after the fact or not, the fact is that Brian alluded to the fact that he was aware of the site. Whether we found it after the fact and it wasn't on our plans.
I don't think Brian even knew of it, because
Yeah, I don't
Brian's
think
not even
so.
in that division. I
Okay.
don't see how
We-
Brian
Alright.
would even know of it.
We could check that. I think that discussion was after the fact. But, then, whatever.
All right, what else you got?
Well, I'll give you the draft of change order 4, so you can look at that.
Oops.
Yeah, you told me when we got into this, at the end of it is the real fun part.
Oh, this is gonna be going on forever.
I killed a couple of trees today. Not telling anybody. Okay,
So, we're over.
change order, if you go to page 6 of 9. Change order item number 1, that's number 600 Mass Road. That's the one where we originally rejected his time and materials for the second day and just allowed him the cost under the item in the contract. But then, his argument that he had to actually go back and dig out all of that service because of the culvert fill. I mean, that's legitimate, so we changed that, we went back on that one and decided to give him the second day on that one when he was asking for it, so that's $16,356. Change order item number 2 is number 736 Mass Road, that's the service connection as well. That's the one where he had offered to split the difference with us. It was $6,600, I think it was, that was in dispute, that he wanted, that we were not giving him, because that was the differential. If you pay the second day, if you just pay the linear footage under the item for service out of the pipe, it reduced his total change order request by around $6,600. And he wanted to split the difference on that for the 33. And we're throwing him the extra 33 on that so that he'll go out and take care of the pavement issues before winter. So he's getting the full $14,388 on that we originally requested. So that's
Mike, go back to change order number 1 for a minute.
Yeah.
It says sewer service for number 600 Mass Road was not shown on the drawings connected to the mainline sewer on Mass Road. The second sentence says the sewer service was discovered not to be connected to the mainline sewer on Mass Road. It was discovered, if it wasn't connected, where was it going then? Are you talking about it wasn't? It was connected to the old one, and then you went back and found out that it hadn't been even connected to the new one?
I think the issue was that they didn't reconnect it.
Okay.
It probably should be worded a little differently, reconnected.
But the essence is, it was discovered, you went out and found it wasn't connected to it,
Right.
and you had to connect to the new sewer.
That's the one that the old lady lived in the house, on Pershing.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the one that was completely missed.
Okay. Thank you.
Change order item number 3, that actually was the drainage pipe that I mentioned a few moments ago near Hannaford's. The thing was just a mess, so we asked for a price to have them go the rest of the way across the street to the structure on the other side. And it was an additional 50 or 60 feet, so that's the $14,585. Fairly straightforward. Now, item 4 is actually a deduct. It's not an addition. It decreases the contract amount by $4,200. Now, in that one there, when they were digging, they encountered
Right.
signal cable, within conduit. So they knew it was there, but even after they knew it was there, they didn't bother to protect it. So, I don't know if it was during the backfilling, it was some part of the construction ended up damaging it because they didn't properly protect it. So, he was submitting the charges back to us for East Coast Signal to go out and repair it. And that's the $4,200.
We paid that.
And we're saying no, because once it was uncovered, even though nobody knew it was there originally, it wasn't shown on the drawings, once it was uncovered, he certainly knew it was there. It was very clear in the contract documents that when he encounters any underground utilities, whether they're shown on the drawings or not, he has an obligation and a responsibility to protect them. He didn't do that, so we're taking that as a deduct because I think the town paid for it.
We paid for that, yeah.
That was part of the 85.
We paid for it with the understanding that by paying for it, didn't say who was right or who was wrong.
Right.
It was just to get it paid off the
Yes.
table, and we would go further
Right.
towards the end.
So we're including that as a deduct from the contract.
Okay.
So that's the $4,200. change order item number 4.
We paid.
Fairly recently, let's let me back up here.
Item 5, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
item
five.
5. We already did 4.
Just did 4.
Yeah, okay, item 5. Fairly recently, it was decided that temporary traffic loops need to be installed part of for the winter. It's been on a timing loop since they've completed their active construction work out there. East Coast Signals provided a proposal to do that work, and they charge $600 per loop. And the item in the contract, it's in the contract in the bid, is $500 per loop, but that's not for temporary, that's for permanent. So we kind of went back and forth as to how we really want to handle this one. And I guess we'll put it through Cardillo, but through the contract. But I think that, I was my train of thought there, but the temporary loops we feel are maybe outside of the contract, I guess is the bottom line. So, we're putting this item in to cover the cost of installing temporary traffic loops prior to winter, and then next year, when they do the milling and paving for the final paving, they'll have to cut through all the loops. They will have to replace all those loops, however they do it, for $500 a piece, because that's what's in the contract. But these temporary loops that they've been asked to replace is some kind of over and above the contract. So we're including it as a change order item in this particular change order.
So these come out at $1,000, a little over $1,000 for temporary, when the work effort is basically the same.
Yeah, I think East Coast Signals.
I mean, that's why we have a pay item in there. I just would assume we paid at the $500. Unless it specifically says.
Well, this is what East Coast Signals says. That's what it's gonna cost them to do it. Here's our price. And if we put it back on Cardillo to have it done under that item, $500 a piece, we're gonna end up with another change order request. I can
Or another
guarantee it.
arbitration thing.
Yeah, I can guarantee it. I can see that one coming.
Yep.
That's why I kind of went back and forth as to how we really want to deal with this. Originally, that was the plan, was to just pay it through the item that's in the contract already for reinstalling the permanent loops, traffic control loops. But because it's not, the money doesn't cover what East Coast Signal wants to charge, planning to charge, that there's the discrepancy that we're gonna have to deal with one way or the other. I think if it was a different contractor, we could probably do that, but with these guys, it's not gonna happen.
Pay now or pay later.
Yeah, basically.
Well, they agreed to all this?
More or less. They haven't seen the final yet. They're squawking about the $4,200 deduct, but they haven't said that they're not gonna agree to it.
Well, I actually think the $4,200 deduct should be an $8,400 deduct, because we've already paid for it. So by deducting
Well, I think-
$4,200 out of the contract, they still got paid for it. And we didn't.
Yeah, the rest of it is an item that's still in dispute, frankly. And the thought was that that can be used in either one of two ways. Can be used towards, well, we need to talk about this arbitration issue, but could be either be used as an offset towards the arbitration, or as just a straight deduct in the final balancing order for the project, the final balancing change order for the project.
Because I can't call East Coast up and say, gee, I want my money back.
Right.
So they've
So
got paid
that-
for
That
it,
part
so,
of it's still in dispute, is what I'm
Right.
saying. So it'll either be handled as a deduct or a trade-off.
So that $4,200, even though you deducted it off of here, we still.
Yeah, this is a lot clearer in terms of responsibility. This is much clearer. They knew it was there because they uncovered it. They failed to protect it. They broke it. You know, that one's pretty straightforward. The other part of that 8,500 is not quite so cut and dry. It's a little fuzzier. So we're still saying that they own it, but it's not as cut and dried of an argument on that one.
Who subcontracted East Coast Signal? Was it Cardillo?
Well, yeah, the town, I guess, technically, but because he paid them directly. But the billing was put through the contract.
Well, they normally maintain those traffic lights, and they know the system.
Yeah,
right?
they've been doing the work for the town. Which is why
But the
they
point
were-
was is that they saw this stuff, and then they went in and they caused the extra work to be done because they didn't pay attention to what they saw.
Right. Right.
So it was their own negligence.
Yes, exactly.
But it would have been, if it was under the contract, I would have thought that Cardillo would have been the person that would be responsible for paying them to come in to do the work.
That would be the case normally, but they were refusing to pay them.
Right.
And we had a catch-22 because they weren't paying them, and East
Right.
Coast wasn't willing to go back out there to fix anything. So
Right.
they got paid, so
We paid him.
we were in a state.
Well, you gotta keep the lights going no matter what, and that's why,
I just. it
and we
was a
agreed
double
at the
deduct-
time we'd work it out later, and this
Right.
is later.
Well, that's why I'm talking about it. That's exactly why I'm talking about it.
So the total on this is 55,639.
Well, if you take this one and the other one, you're up to, I don't know, about $90,000. What else is still hanging out there?
Well, we got blindsided today. On that, I see.
I heard something about this,
Is this the American flagging?
Yeah,
American flag.
I still don't know how this could possibly happen. What they're saying is that it's not just American flagging, it's also Goffstown Police Department as well. What they're saying is they haven't billed us through the contract yet for so many hundreds of hours of American flagging time in Goffstown. They said they have been billed and supposedly paid it. I need to confirm that. But they haven't actually billed it through the contract, and I said, how could it possibly be? Her explanation is actually on the email, which is the first page, in the second paragraph. And if anybody actually understands what it is she's saying, it would be a better person than I.
What page is that?
Right on the email, on the front page.
There's a shortage of funds.
So we're trying to sort that one out, but those, let's see, here, the backup is attached, so there's 762.75 hours for American flagging, and that equates to about $23,000 in cost.
She's
And
saying that,
then they've got 579 hours of police, and that's probably another $20,000. So we're looking at about $43,000 that they would be billing through the contract in the next payment application, assuming that they actually legitimately missed this. And that's something we're chasing down.
yeah, she basically says that when they invoice them, they neglected to invoice them
Yeah, she's
for the
saying
flaggers and the police department on a couple of the invoices.
Yeah, it sounds like she's trying to say they haven't actually invoiced us
Correct,
for July and August services.
correct.
Yeah. So presumably that would be part of pay application 10, which we're working on.
Well, if you take all this stuff together in the paving, we may be over our budget. I mean, not the bond, but the, can't do that.
Well, there's 150,000 that was the remaining balance in there. So we need to, with this new information I got today, we need to revise that spreadsheet and see where that puts us.
Are you recommending we sign change order number 4?
Yeah, that's good.
You don't think it'd be best to like lump everything together and just have one global solution so we're holding the money?
Well, there'll be a change order 5, and then there'll be a final balancing change order on the project. So I think it's change order, part of change order 5, we deal with that. And change order 5, or the final balancing change order, may presumably have to address whatever we come up with as a settlement, the so-called arbitration. And I think we should discuss that too.
We'll have a discussion on that outside of the meeting.
Well, would that be considered a workshop, or how does that work? Because we didn't post an executive session today.
It was a workshop.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
required to
How-
post it?
If it's an executive session, I believe it is. Workshop, no.
Yeah, executive session should be posted.
Yeah.
The only other item I had was the amendment for our contract, which I had circulated to you probably a
Yeah.
month ago or so.
Look at those.
Back to the $4,200. What do you propose how we should handle that?
The 42 that's in the change order, or the remaining balance of the 8,500?
I got $4,200 that has been sent to East Coast Signal for work that you say,
Well, there's 8,500 that's been paid.
for that, I'm just talking about change order number 4.
Right. You actually paid them $8,500.
We paid East Coast.
What we're saying is we're taking $4,200 of that as a deduct against the contract. That's through this change order. And if you want to make it the full 85, I can be more than happy to do that. But that would become an item of dispute. I think they'll sign the $4,200 deduct. I don't know what they'll do with the 8,500.
When do they expect this back, like this week?
We're gonna send it to them this week. They've already seen a draft of change order 4, but we've revised it because we wanted to add the signal loops. So we've added the signal loops, change order item 5. So he hasn't seen the draft, this new draft yet. I've given it to all you folks first. And then we're gonna send it to Cardillo to see if he's agreeable to this.
Well,
So what do we have left besides this? We have this one, which is 55,631.
Mhm.
we have this,
We have,
There's one more change order that we're working on now, that they had submitted.
which is,
And some of that, as I said, some of that will be paid through the contract under the allowance items for the soil remediation.
how much is that one?
The total is around 21,000. And the 66 or whatever it is for, or 65, whatever that number is, for training, we're gonna reject the training. So that'll go to, they'll probably go into this arbitration, this total.
and you said,
And we'll probably give him the 5,500 or so for the health and safety plan. So that would be a change order item in the next change order.
and then with all this man hours and stuff, you're talking about another 50 grand?
Or,
Flagging
Oh,
and
for that?
police, yeah.
that's about 43, based on the pricing in the contract. The price for the flaggers is $30 an hour billing. And the police, I forget off the top of my head, but the police, 40 or so doing the math, it's about $43,000 based on these two spreadsheets.
What was the bond for?
2.5.
So if change order number 5 is potentially around $21,000,
Like 40 of those, 32 weeks.
Yeah.
Mike, you think the next change order is gonna be in the neighborhood of $21,000? You were saying, did I hear that?
Well, no, there'll be a 5,500 in it as a change order for the health and safety plan.
Yeah.
The charges for, like the frac tanks, testing, anything associated with the hazardous material, that's just gonna be paid through the contract. It's
Okay.
Through a regular payment requisition
Yep.
under the allowance items.
Okay.
And what's that?
Well, that's
It's 21,000.
that's the 21, that's where the 21,000
It's
comes.
21,000
Okay.
minus the 66, minus the 55, so.
And there's a 42 for traffic control?
uh,
43?
43.
Oh, 43,000 here.
For traffic control?
Yeah, right. Right.
And then the 50 for the road, if we, right, for the paving?
For the final payment, yeah.
What
That's
was
another
it?
50.
Yeah.
So you're talking 89,000, so 18, 89,000.
93, 92. So we had 55,000 plus 43,000?
34,000.
Yeah, plus 43, all right.
43,000.
Oh, for the flagging, yeah.
Okay, so that's 93,000 minus, plus, minus 6,600 minus 5,500. And change order number 5 is 21,000.
Minus 55, minus 66.
Yeah, but I've already minus that, so I need to plus 21,000. Comes up to 170,100, 170,100. No, there, yeah.
Plus
No, that's
another
wrong.
30 on top of
That's
that,
wrong.
right?
50,
I got 141.
yeah, I think
Well-
mine's around 43,000.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, but I mean, no, it's, then you're gonna add, that's before the paving.
And the Hoyle Tanner change order.
I have 101, I have 101. Okay, let's do 50,000 plus 43,000 plus 21,000 minus, that comes to 114,000 minus 6,600 minus 5,500 goes up to 101,900.
I don't know. You're coming from-
I have a 50,000 for paving, 43,000 for traffic flaggers, and they have 21,000 for number 5, and then I subtracted 6,600 and 5,500.
And you also got the previous change order of 34,000. 700. 34,000, excuse me, oh, wait,
But that's already in the front page.
Well, it depends if you're using the top number or the bottom number.
yeah.
You starting at 2.2 or 2.3?
I'd start at 2.3. I have.
Well, if you're starting at 2.3, you're already, the 55
It's already-
is already
It's
in there.
So the differences that I have right now are paving, traffic, and amendment number 5 minus 6,600 and minus 5,500 comes up to 101,900, which would put us at 2,403.
Plus 30.
2,403 plus 30 is 2,433.
And the job's not over.
2,301, 349.26 plus 101,900 plus 30 thousand?
Well,
It's
about
243, 325, 243, 249, 26.
2.3.
it starts at 2.3, you know what I mean?
No, I just went all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was all up and down. We're tight, we're getting very, very tight, potentially over.
Minus.
Well, I guess we have to meet in executive session to discuss legal issues or contract issues, whatever you want to call it. We didn't post the meeting that way.
Okay.
I'm a little unclear if we have to or not. I'm no expert when it comes to that. There's a lot of stuff here that I want to think about and really look at. I don't want to be, voting on six-digit things, just, knowing about it for 5 minutes, not to be a smart-ass about it, but we got to meet next Tuesday in Manchester. Would there be any downside of calling a meeting after the Manchester meeting, coming back here and having a meeting to go over all this stuff? Can they wait another week?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is
I've
that,
done that before,
What time's the meeting in Manchester?
3 o'clock.
Okay.
We're typically done by 5.
Yeah.
both
well,
times.
set it for 6 o'clock for the usual time, so if people want to get a bite to eat or go home quick or whatever.
Okay.
I just,
I thought you were gonna buy us all pizzas.
And-
yeah, I'll buy you pizza if you want.
Executive session.
And we'll go through the whole thing from top to bottom. Plus, hopefully we'll have some better numbers from Manchester for budgeting purposes.
For the intermunicipal agreement.
Yeah. And try to wrap everything up. It's probably gonna take a while, but,
That's fine.
The big items. 77 million, 2.5 million.
Yeah.
well, it's like, we sit here for 2 or 3 years, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden,
We're getting slammed.
we got
It's
100
like a
things
snowstorm in
happening within
October,
2
isn't
weeks,
it?
you know what I mean?
It's like a
But I guess that's just the way it goes,
So as far as the budget is concerned, we're pretty set except for the Manchester line.
Yeah, that's gonna come down. I'm not sure how much,
Oh, yeah,
but
that will
that's
be
gonna
done.
come down.
Kathy,
You,
I've run some stuff, I'll send it over to you.
Anything you'd like to add, Dave?
Anything you'd like to forget about, Dave?
I just wanted you to note that we got the first bill from Laura Spector, just so you know, we did finally get one, I figured we would. About $742.
Did that include a letter to Manchester wastewater treatment plant? Did it say?
It didn't. It's for services through 10/20.
And she didn't itemize what her services were?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she did? But it didn't,
So we can,
It
but I don't
didn't-
see anything here as far as.
because the city of Manchester requested that she put all of her concerns with the IMA agreement that we had at a meeting in writing.
Well,
She was gonna go meet with him,
Steve, I've signed all those.
and
I
he
don't-
said, no meeting, send it in writing.
Yeah, I don't see it on here.
Yeah, already there, she hasn't
Well,
written the
there's
thing.
gotta be some more. All right,
Do we have any other business?
We're still gonna do the other project in the spring, Bill Connor's area. Okay.
They were all.
Temple Court.
Yeah,
Green Street,
Bill
Temple
Connor's
Court.
area.
So, is that project all set to be bid upon?
It's in Megan's hands.
Pardon?
It's in Megan's hands right now.
It's in DPW, Megan for review before it goes to state.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We can kill the TV.